must stop in our bookstore and take a look at that catalog. This one's name is Molly Getzner. And when I think about the impact of this work, you know, we saw it in person in the studio, we saw it in situ, you know, coming forward in the studio. We really had time with Karin to really consider the passage of time and vintage objects in life. And for me, it harkens back to the things in life that have meaning. And this opening line in the foreword, if I can read it. Karin Broker's girls wear their baggage proudly. I think that's one of the things that Sarah and I and the Collectors Club really walked away with, was these are assemblages, but they each have their own voice, their own narrative, their own lives. And Karin will tell you, I imagine, that she gets to know these girls, and she calls them girls consciously. And I think that's really interesting because I think we never stop evolving. We never stop growing. And I think when we look at our collection and we look at artists that contribute to that, we want art that speaks. It teaches us something. So for that, I want to thank you. And I want to tell you who we have here today is a remarkable woman. Karin taught for Rice University, a widely respected arts program, a program that made a commitment to bring artists into their gallery program that had very much independent thought, very kind of leading edge concepts, and charged them with installing and occupying their gallery in a very personal way. Karin's role was in drawing and printmaking, and she is a master printer. She studied in Paris at the Atelier 17 with Stanley Hayter. She has been acknowledged by being purchased by dozens upon dozens upon dozens of major American museums, including the Brooklyn Museum of Art, which is a fine institution, the Smithsonian, Boston, and she, as Sarah said, she's been in our collection since '89, and we love that piece. It's heavy as sin. She said, you know, I've remedied that. It's much lighter now. So she said, take that heavy steel frame off when you move it around. So that was inside. She also said we can wash it with Windex, which we didn't know. But beyond those collections, Karin has also been acknowledged by being the 1994 Artist of the Year. And she has received 2 different National Endowment acknowledgements. And her work has been seen in dozens of countries around the world. She's just a remarkable person, and I think that we're going to have an incredible afternoon. And I want to thank you for being an artist of note, but also an artist that we embrace so much. And we're so happy to have you here, Karin.
Wish my mother could have heard that.
Thank you.
Okay, is this on? No. How did I turn this on? Okay, got it. Green light.
Just remember
Yes.
to keep it close.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank the museum and the board and everyone that made that purchase possible. I appreciate it. That's a tough piece. It's got 2 shotgun legs. So it takes a special kind of museum that says, wow, that would be great in our collection, right? And I thank them for having that kind of belief in the piece. My Circus. The title was for the show at McLean, and this is called My Small Circus. Certainly less pieces, but my brother Jeff, when I go back to Pennsylvania, to Pittsburgh, and I immediately want to talk about stuff that I think is important. And he will not. His words are, not my monkey, not my circus. And that just stops you dead in your track. But for some reason, I jump into that. Okay, I embrace the fact that I want to know about the stuff. I want to know. I don't think it ever goes away. Trauma or troubles or whatever, it's just people don't talk about it. But it still has a kind of a smell to it, a stink to it, that I think that you need to talk about it. Now, how I got to that point, I don't know. Okay, I don't think it's because I'm from Penn, Pennsylvania. Okay. Oh, shoot. Okay. This is a 9 by 7 foot drawing, and it's on Formica. How did I start on Formica? I don't think anyone else is doing stuff on Formica because it takes 14 hours to sand a 9 by 7 foot panel. Luckily, I had tons of students to do it. And so that always worked out. But why did I decide to work on Formica? Because when you want to draw large and you're in Texas, you don't have many choices. I couldn't believe the humidity here. If you deal with paper, you realize really quickly that paper just like lays on its back like a dead cockroach and says, I'm too wet. You can't draw on me. The paper furs up, okay? And so it makes your drawing marks look very different. And it was like, oh my gosh, I tried everything. I sprayed gesso from the White Cliffs of Dover. I mean, you'd have thought I was a chemist. I did everything that I could, but the problem is the wood in Texas expands, the gesso does not, and then it starts cracking. It's just awful. So I just thought, well, I can't draw anymore. I can't draw on paper. I'm just not going to do it in Texas. It's just an awful place. I'm not staying here. I'm going to have to leave, and because I can't draw. But Robert Gordy is an artist from Chicago. He's now deceased, but he was one of the Harry Who, and sometimes fate just works for you because he went and lived in New Orleans, and he was invited to Houston to give a print demo. He's not a printer, but he did monoprints. He's a great painter, and they invited all the printers from around the area to come and watch his demo. He printed on Formica, and that was remarkable. He also painted on Formica. He didn't have to sand it. No one told me that. So the problem is, it's like I just did monoprints on the Formica, and then I had to, in my warehouse, old warehouse, I had to build my own bathroom, and I put Formica in the shower. So on Friday nights, I'd have a glass of wine, I'm in the bathtub, and I'm drawing on my little Formica wall. I just start drawing on it, and I realized that when I erased it, it got better. Every drawing got better. So the flatter I made the Formica, the more it took a drawing product. So now it's like, okay, I want to make big drawings. I had 1 month. I made 3 9 by 7 foot panels, and I had to figure out how to do it. I did the one that the museum owns in pencil, and then I started to realize that I could use water. And I'm not a painter. I hate canvas. But for some reason, I don't mind a brush and a hard surface. And I had to then redo my whole drawing system in order to do drawings on Formica. Because when you work on Formica, unlike paper, which has this great dirt to it, right? Artists love this technical dirt. We see the history of the line, you erase it, but it's still there. And that kind of stuff just makes us all happy. It may only make us happy, but it makes us really happy. And I had to figure out how to do it on Formica because, and I'm not a genius, okay, and I realized that I have to use Comet and water, and it takes off the dirt. So I had to think of a different kind of rhythm to work. It took me about a year to do this drawing on and off. And this is one then called Amaryllis Goodbyes. And these are all martyrs. I wanted to do a show at McLean, and I wanted to do more large flowers. I hadn't done any large scale drawings since an earlier gallery, and somehow via the conversation I had with my dealer and me being angry about something else, he said, stop being on the fence about a feminist. You are a feminist, but what, you just are wishy-washy about it. And basically, this is the cliff notes, okay? I thought, okay, wow, it's like he gave me permission to be a feminist. It's like weird, okay? A guy, once again, telling us how to be. Anyway, so I started figuring, and I already had information on, every time I read the newspaper, I would take like a girl being killed, and it would be John Smith murdered his wife. He didn't like the radio program, and Susan Smith was 24. And I was like, whoa, every article I had to rewrite. Susan Smith, 20, was murdered by her husband, blah, 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 for keeping the radio on. I had to switch it. The victim had to be the person in charge. And I realized that every time you read a newspaper article, the woman is the byproduct. She's murdered, but she's the byproduct. Well, it pissed me off. And so I started figuring out, I started with the Amaryllis. I already had this drawn. And then after my conversation with Bob McLean, I went and thought, okay, who are the martyrs? Who are the female martyrs? Realizing that I don't know female history because it's not in the history books. If Jansen never included a female in his history book, and I would say to Bill Canfield at Rice, how can you use this book? Not even Louise Nevelson, Bourgeois, anybody in this book. And he goes, well, it's the best book on the market. Then write a better one. Write one that includes women. Well, no, Jansen did. It was the only obituary I ever put on my print room door. Okay, this is a detail of it. And I realized that there were millions of women that are martyrs. Now, being Catholic, pretty much that's the only history you knew of, okay? My history for any women were that they were, well, you had Amelia Earhart, but she died. Well, another martyr. And so I just started realizing that there were a lot of women martyrs. And I didn't know any history of women. Okay, this table here, okay, and I jump around a bit. I'm sorry, because I do a lot of different kinds of styles and things. And this is a steel table. It has tick marks on it, and each chair, since I'm a printmaker, I etched the seats before we welded them on the chairs. I did that as a printmaker. I could etch them at Rice. And then they have bad girl jokes on them and so on. I wanted this table in the show for damn girls. I wanted someone to sit on cold, hard steel. This is our life, cold, hard steel. What's it feel like? These are all women. Right there, J.C. Duggard, Amanda Berry, Michelle Knight, Gina DeJesus, and Elizabeth Smart. These tick marks are how many days for 18 years? You can say 18 years, but what's it look like? I'm a visual artist. Again, it's a circus. I'm going right after the trauma. I can feel that kind of captivity. Amanda Berry, the three girls, Amanda, Michelle, and Gina, were all captive by the guy in Cleveland. Okay, so I etched the table. It took me 8 hours to etch that damn table on my deck. That property is toxic at this point. Okay, and I had to make the table its own acid bath and use nitric acid. So it took a long time. But anyway, and then the book up there. I had one with me, but you can see it there. My bookmaker, Linda Yutzi, back there, she helped me with this book, and everything that's written on the 7 drawings is in that book. So of the 2 drawings that you see in that gallery space, it's in the book, okay? And the book is like a hymnal. And when you went to the show, you could sit at the table. 6 people would sit at that table looking at the book, reading this, and you'd see, and a guy walked up to me just crying, telling me a story about his mother. And you were able to write your own story in the back of that book. There were places for notes. Okay, so this is Good Girls, Bad Girls. The upside down stuff at the top are all the women in Marvel Comics, whether they're good or bad or whatever, okay? And that's a 5 by 7 foot drawing. The thing is that when I went to do this book, Linda Yutzi, the bookmaker, I remember her telling me, you're gonna have to write a foreword for each drawing, for each chapter. It was like, oh my God, I'm building the structures, I'm sanding the damn Formica, I'm drawing it, I'm sealing it. It's like, now you want me, and putting the information on, now you want me to write? But it's like, I don't know why I'm not making Formica. And so the thing is that I had just been to the doctor for neuropathy. And I was joking with him. He thought, well, you're just toxic, which is probably true. I mean, I am, because of all the stuff I've had to seal these with. And I said, well, maybe the Catholic Church is punishing me, and I'm going to have stigmata, okay, being Catholic. I'm going to have a wound in my head, and my hands are burning, and my feet. This is karma, right? And the doctor just laughed. Well, I told my mother this as I'm driving to the farm from Houston, and my mother said, oh, Karin, you would be so blessed. I said, so let me get this straight. You want your daughter to have gaping, unhealable wounds that hurt on her body? She said, you would be chosen. Well, got to the farm. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and I wrote my first story for the Martyrs, okay, on my mother and her idea of neuropathy, okay? And then, Nice and Quiet. It's about the Magdalena laundries. 30,000 women incarcerated, and people still go to church, okay? I mean, I'm not talking about faith. I have an incredible faith. But when it comes to the Catholic Church, they haven't liked women very well, okay? We are like the Eve, right? We have killed off everybody, right? It's because of us being female that the world is like it is, okay? And so this is it, Nice and Quiet. I used the 1911 census where they didn't even give women the names. Just look it up. I don't have enough time to tell you about the Magdalena laundries, but they were awful. Closed in 1997 was the last one. I think there were 4 or 5 women that had never, over 45 years in the Magdalena laundries, working for free, that the Catholic Church, I'm surprised they didn't kick them out, but in their one moment of goodness, and I am pissed at them, I will tell you right now. Okay, they found a house for them, and then until they died, okay? Then this is the Nice and Quiet. There were family members in there, and Fighting Pretty. Okay, when the U.S. said that women could now be in battle, on the forefront of battle, and I thought, oh, God, this is like, the modern age, okay? I thought, well, have there ever been any women fighting? Oh my gosh, I was so mad at women, I couldn't find any more white space to draw the information. Like one little bit right in there, and I thought, they fought as women, they fought as men. My favorite story is the one about Sweden, where this woman was, a guy, she fought as a guy, actually like a commander or whatever, given a pension, medals, everything, and then they found out that he was a she, and they hung her. So anyway, I'm drawn to that like Velcro, okay? Because it's just all wrong. The White and the Black Rose, that's the War of the Roses. There's also such a thing as the Black Rose. I mean, you can, again, a lot of history. And, I do a lot of research on these women. Thank God for Wikipedia. Honest to God, I give them money like you can't imagine. Okay, I feel bad. Okay, this right here. What are the names for women? Out of 93 names for women, 35 are awful. 35. For men, 35 total. And they don't even mind being called a prick or a dick. I mean, really, they don't. I mean, so there are not really bad words in there. But women have words are thrown at them nonstop. In the military, whatever, walking by a job site. I just love when guys do that because I am so ready, thank you. Luckily in menopause, they don't do that to women like me because they know we are so angry. Okay. This is a 6-foot lino cut. I actually did this at Big Bend. Okay, I went with an art historian, and she was posing in her bathing suit, and we realized no one was camping around us. Okay, she was a medievalist, and she's reading about Jesus' mother or something, and we're just like laughing hysterically, and I'm cutting my lino, because let me tell you, there is nothing like that warm air in Big Bend to go over a piece of linoleum. It just cuts like butter, right? Then I'd have to sleep on it at night in my van. Okay, This is a 5-foot piece. And I thought, well, you know, and you can see the resemblance of what's happening with the background pieces here and how they relate to the girls that I'm doing. It's just, there's no calm space. These are like girl germs, that's what it's called. It's like they're all this stuff, like, gee, I like going for shoe shopping. It's like something happens, like you're really tired, you're like, oh, I should go home. And then you walk into a store, and women, no matter what, it's like you've been given a vitamin pill. And you are excited, like, hey, just show me a pair of high heels that will hurt, okay? And then the guys could pick the head they liked, okay? Now, someone wrote this recipe for me, and I've been trying to find the author, but I just know that it was in indiehouston.org, and I keep asking them, who wrote that? But I love it, because I think that it's exactly the way my pieces are. Curiosity Cabinet, Joseph Cornell, Chewy's Mexican Restaurant, Dada, I'm a hoarder, and Venice, Italy, and I love it, the dash of the apocalypse. Okay, that's my favorite part. This is some weird stuff that I thought I'd throw in when Rice gave me a grant to learn how to weld, because I thought, well, the welders I know aren't that smart. And so I thought, well, I could do this, right? I could do this. And so this guy who's a Porsche mechanic showed me how to weld. So it's like sewing. If it doesn't stick, it's not hard enough. And if it you know, falls apart, well, you know, got to have more heat. And so he left, and I made like 5 pieces of furniture in 3 days. And I did this for my police officer friend who retired. And I took his handcuffs and all the bullets, and they're live bullets, like no one told me that while I'm hammering him in. And then, you know, and his name is Will, Mike Wills. And so, and it comes out of this weird box that I had. And then I did this, and he puts all of his, you know, police officer stuff in it. And then I did one for his wife, who is mounted police. And those are her spurs. And again, more, now I knew they were live bullets, but I was careful carving, and anyway. And that's it right there. Self-portrait, okay? Little queen. This is a cage freedom. You know, we all have kind of the cage kind of thing going on, and there's the little swing in there that is idyllic, your idea of happiness. And yes, it's a cage thing, but you still can get out. And I just love the shadows in this that the photographer did. This is Finding Jesus. So even though I badmouth the Catholic Church, I do not badmouth faith, you know, or God or whatever. I do not. I see a big difference. And I think this is my idea of the Catholic Church, that finding Jesus, Jesus is there, here he is inside here with all this extra stuff added to him. And yet you can find him, okay? And that's his back. It was like a 18th century or 17th century Jesus figure from South America, and now he's on a stick, okay? Okay, there he is. And then a pretty gun. This is in the recent book, Loaded Guns in Contemporary Art. They have this in there. And there it is, like this idea of pretty guns. My husband loves guns, okay? Let me tell you. The idea is that he cannot have more guns than I have purses. And I have lost. Okay, I have lost, okay? This is in 2004, and this was the first time I cut the head off of a cast figure. And you can see the relationship now, how I've come full circle in 2022, 23, and I called Sitting Pretty. Carolyn Farr bought this in Houston, and she's a socialite there, and she said, God, does this speak to me? You know? This is about my mother, Ball and Chain for Mom. My mother said that the last word she wanted on her deathbed to see, she wanted to say, she wanted the taste of vanilla ice cream, not the love of her children or whatever. Like, I want vanilla ice cream. So I did the Ball and Chain for Mom. That's owned by the museum in Beaumont. And this is called Don't Lie. It's owned by the airport system. It's in the Bush, I think it's A terminal. And my neighbor was just lying, plain lying. And God, you got to be careful when you're a friend of mine, because, you know, I'm paying attention. And so I thought, okay, Joelle, it's all over here. Joelle, don't lie. Joelle, don't lie. And then I put people that don't lie, put my husband's name. So it's like, okay. And this is We Come Bearing Gifts. And that basket has semi-precious stones in it. Someone gave it to me. They thought, oh, you'd love to wear it. I couldn't wait to get the pin back off and stick it on him. Got a little gun. You know how we go into another country, we're going to help you, and then we're going to shoot you all to death. Okay. It's about my sister and me. I mean, I look like I'm in a circus, right? Which is, you know, pretty much it, says it all. But my sister back there, she's deceased now, but she's very calm and quiet, and there we are connected together. Those were lamps at the Round Top big antique fair, and I was so excited. Well, that's when I knew Joelle. Okay, and she went to ask $125. I was so excited. I could barely get those lamps apart. Right? By the time I got home, their lampshades were off, the innards were out, and their heads were cut off. Okay? This is for my sister too. What does a heart look like? I mean, what do certain things look like? That's the beauty of art. You can, not even with words, what does it look like physically? How do you turn something that you're thinking into something that directly is equal to what you would say, and even better, hopefully. And I realized that my sister's heart being prickly, what does it look like? Her delicate heart still beats to our sorrow. That's my title because it still beats, right? We still think of that person, it's still there. And so anyway, that's my take on it. This is Start Young with women. We start our daughters the same way. Okay, I have no children, so thank God, you know. But I've taught many people's daughters, and I think the same idea is, I remember one student who did this piece, it was an etching of a bell jar with this little girl on the top, and it was so beautiful. She cut it out, and I said, so what's this about? She goes, no one told me that I wouldn't be a princess forever. It was like, whoa. I mean, her family made her like a princess, and she was getting a divorce. Okay, pink since birth. Pink is our color, right? And so we're, you know, there she is. But people see, you know, also about young people and the sexual part of men liking younger women, and, you know, the new wife or whatever is now dressed in a pleated skirt. She looks like a child, like a young girl, which is, don't get me started on that. Okay. Okay, so I kind of consolidated the words, not enough to Linda's liking, but we carry stuff all the time. And if you have the book, the girls actually are better at explaining themselves than I am. I mean, I blah, 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 you know, and talk about it and whatever. And to me, it's like a corridor that I'm running down. And I open up a door, I run in that, I come out, I run down the other door. So it's got a lot of different arms to it, to the conversation. But when I write about the girls, it's like weird. I add stuff to those girls. But when I write it and I take away until I come down to where I cannot take another word away, which is a very interesting yin and yang, okay? At least to me, you know. So this right here, this one's sold at McLean. And really, the idea of being female, I'm so proud of it. I love all my female friends, you know, it's like, oh my God, or any woman at all. But I also realized that, like, all the women in here, and I'm not talking about the men, because you've had history talking about you forever, okay? You can deal with your own shit, okay? So, but me, I really think that I look at women all dressed up and everything, and basically almost every female is probably tattooed inside with all this trauma and child dying, or someone leaving, or your dog died. I mean, no matter what, you've got all this stuff that has happened to you. No one will see it, okay? And I really don't think you guys are tattooed as much as women. I'm sorry, women, I say that all the time, I'm sorry. It's like, what the hell? Where does that come from? It's like bumper words in my head. And the whole story there is about women saying they're sorry, and guys liking it. I mean, like women that say they're sorry. But now I don't, because, well, I'm past the menopause stage. So, okay, this is certainly the one the museum has, and I just loved having those two gun. I mean, you can't imagine how hard it was to get those two gun barrel legs, one off my husband, and another off of the police officer. I just, come on, give me some guns, everybody. And so, and she's pretty heavy. She actually has a lot of ceramic figures on her that I used for years drawing at Rice University for my classes. And there they are, okay, on top of her. This is a piece that is not in the show, but the piece on the left there is certainly a Christian figure, Christ. And one day when I walked by, I took that. I couldn't believe the shadow. It's like, looked like a female. It looked like it had little breasts, and looked so feminine. And I thought, and then when I was writing, I thought I'd make it a girl. And because we don't know. I mean, either God has no gender, or I don't know. I'm not betting on it. I'm not betting I'm going anywhere. Nice. Okay, maybe not. But anyway, so I redid it. And he wanted to be a she. It looks very much happier, I think. And then the last piece, Girl with Balls. Well, that says everything. I was saying how when we were sitting earlier, that my husband doesn't really talk about what I make. I mean, he's an engineer. It's like a developer, right? And I asked him, what do you think about this? And he said, you need to oil that gun because it's going to get rusty. And I'm thinking, well, Mark, I've welded the barrel shut. I've taken out the firing pin, which doesn't matter anyway because there's steel, in the barrel. And he's like worried about the rust. So I thought, okay. So I do a lot of different things. Do I print anymore? No, I don't. I like the large scale. I do. And I certainly like, the thing is, my mother will always say, why aren't you drawing? I think you know how to draw. Why aren't you drawing? I'm not a bad draftsman. But the thing is, there's no joy. To me, when I draw, I see it all done. Like, yeah, I'm surprised about how the water drips and how this looks, but I'm never surprised because I'm in control. I used to try drawing with my left hand so it wouldn't look so controlled, but now I'm ambidextrous. Okay, my left hand learned how to draw. So, but when I do the three-dimensional things, I am shocked at the relationship when you add something. It's like, oh wow, that it changes the story. It surprises me. It proves that I'm wrong, that my hubris, when I have in drawing, which I think, okay, I know what I'm doing, right? I can make something pretty. But with the 3D things, again, I'm always surprised. And they somehow have a different meaning. And when I see that meaning, then I try to go for it more. I do want to throw that story down your throat. There's no doubt about it. But I want you to walk up to the girls or walk up to anything of mine and say, God, that's really pretty. And then kind of be shocked. I want you to look at that my circus. What is that circus? Because every woman, being beautiful, dressed nice, you get closer, and that's a pile of stuff there going on. And that is an interesting thing to me, what's going on. Well, that's about it.
What's going on with the dog and with the ball and chain?
The dog is kind of like, it looks homey. It looks like family, right? A woman and her dog. But the dog is just as, with her, kind of chained. She's not necessarily chained, but the thing is, if you look in the paper, you look at anything, women are dying at a huge rate by their husbands, boyfriends, whatever. It's a common occurrence in the papers. It shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be that at all. I'm sorry, men are not protecting women. You're protecting your one woman, but it's not protecting all the women. Women are going to have to get together and protect themselves. My students would say, oh, well, I'm going to print late. They would all be in the print room late, and well, I'm going to go to the dorm. I'd say, no, you're calling the campus to walk you to your dorm. And then they would always come, well, what about you? I said, oh, please. I said, really? I will announce to that guy how angry I am, and I will do my best to take him down. You, though, You don't have the kind of anger I have. Plus, you don't lift weights like I do. So you need the escort. But the thing is, we are immune to it. And that to me is wrong. You know, I am a very happy person. I am. But I'm happy knowing that what I'm trying to do in my own way, okay, small way, is to get my tribe to take a closer look, to pay attention. My tribe of women need to now, we're 50% of this sky, Holding Up the Sky, that book, we are 50%, if not more, that we have to realize that it's not a mean power, it's just a solid power, right? And so with that, and let me tell you, I'm much happier having done my research when I realized how many women were scientists and artists and chemists. It's not just Marie Curie. It is a huge number of people that just were not put in those books. So until they do an adequate history book, it'll be my responsibility, and I do feel it's my responsibility now that I know. What, to make pretty pictures? Could I do, God, I'm making a landscape? Well, that's never going to happen. But if doing a pretty bouquet again just would be my sin. Do you understand? It would be my sin to do that without putting women that I respect, that I heard about, or whatever, okay? Truly, I feel responsible for that. And I'm not trying to be egotistical. I'm just doing it in my own way. But to not do it in my own way would be my sin. And because I have such a heavy Catholic upbringing, I still have the sin thing going on. Okay. Any questions?
We have a microphone if it's needed. I'm curious about what your sensibility and sentimentality as motivation to making art. It seems like it's there. You think of your sister and she's no longer here, and you still have that duality of, you know, the representation of love, but then the complexity of the materials. Your materials use is such a force in your work. Would you consider yourself a sentimentalist?
Well, I don't know. History is important to me, and history of objects. I mean, you know, you grow up in families and all of you have that special clock that was your grandfather's or something that was your mother's. Like I have her ring, right? For my wedding ring, she gave me her ring. And so I'm sentimental about that. But again, you know, I'm not sentimental enough that I'm not going to chop off a figure's head, really. And as long as I can make something better out of it than what it is. I truly am trying to recycle all the stuff I have before I die. I think that's what I'm trying to get all of it onto on figures, like other people have children to give stuff to, and I'm trying to just wire it all together so that I can to make sure that I'm using the things that I should use.
Have you made anything that you're not willing to part with?
You know, I do have, my husband pretty much doesn't say much about what I make, but he does say everything's for sale. You know, when the gallery people come to the house and they do a soiree there, it's like everything, but the one drawing in the bathroom that has this, you know, girl putting on lipstick again. Thank you, Mark. You know, the sexist kind of thing going on. But I did draw the picture, so you know, okay, it is his. But I do realize that I can't take it all with me. I am much happier with something like your piece being in a museum than I am about just something being in someone's collection at home. I am, because I think I would rather people, I see the girls as being all together like a tribe and watching their backs and being a force to be reckoned with. You know what, I don't know how I ended up from Penn, Pennsylvania with someone that gravitates to trauma and sadness. And I'm not a person anyone comes and tells their trouble to. I am not, because I want to fix them. I mean, as a printmaker, if, you know, and that's, you don't know if the kind of person you are makes the printmaker the master printer, or the master printer makes the kind of person. I think I gravitated to it because I like to solve problems. I listen to ink. It has a tackiness. It smells a certain way. I am paying attention to how when I stick that knife in and I pull up that big pile of ink, I want to know what the tail is of that ink. That tells me if I've got enough oil in it or whatever in a transparent base. So I'm fixing that all the time, fixing the color, fixing whatever's going on. No one wants to tell me their problems because, you know, I'm like mixing ink, you know. Well, how can you stay with him? Like, oh, you fill up your car, just drive in one direction, okay? And just go away from that person. But so the people aren't coming to me to tell me their stories. But in a way, I'm interested in kind of, like I read the paper voraciously. And I take, it's like I'm taking the temperature of the wind, okay? I'm taking the temperature of how things are moving. Like right now, I'm pretty pissed at incels. Men that think they should have girls and that women only choose handsome men. Well, like maybe wash. Like women don't have that great of standards, really. And so if you wash, you clean up, you clean your home up, I think you're good to go, okay? Take someone out to dinner. But incels don't feel that way. They just feel they have the right to kidnap you, okay? That kind of stuff is just flowing through my head. It is like whirling around this head, waiting for it to spew out visually. And I hope I can do it. I mean, I hope. When I get started, I'm not sure what's happening. Right now I'm making a bunch of figures, girls that have handles for heads so that men can just lift them around wherever they want them. Okay, so I don't know where that's going. Is that going to be all the girls are having handles for heads? I don't know, but I have a really nice bone handle, right? You know,
So in your life, you've been collecting for a long time. You hold on to things, and you cull things, and you categorize things. You talked about that. Did you ever have a purging? Did you ever say, okay, I'm going to let this stuff go? Or have you held on, and now you've got all this stuff?
Actually, I didn't save my, as a printmaker, you know, I've saved paper. I'm a big paper collector. I go to Europe, I get papers. I love watermarks. So Italy is just like, they're really excited about their watermarks. They're the size of the paper, right? And it makes you not want to print on it, for one thing. So I've had a huge collection of paper, but I never really collected other stuff. I never did. I started to do boxes, and I used metal, and I would do, so I didn't have a lot of stuff, but there was a certain point I decided to do this girl. And I realized, well, I mean, you know, do I have stuff? And I had a lot of junk. I had stuff that I'd saved because some junk just it's beautiful. You know, bottles, they have some beauty to them. But you should see me when I did the bottle girl, and I needed bottles. I'm going through the kitchen dumping out vanilla extract. I am gone for bottles, right? I'm trying, what bottles do I have? I'm just like dumping good stuff out to get the damn bottle, right? So and Mark, I mean, he would see me walk past. I was walking by him with a lamp, and he goes, "Oh, that's really a nice lamp." Yeah, it is. I took it to the studio, took it all apart, and made, you know, well, the candelabra. I made the girl, the little girl with the little feet sticking out, right? The white hat girl. He said, "Oh, that's really nice." Took it out of the bathroom. Yep, drilled right into it, and off I went. Okay.
Well, I do see in the sculptures that they do draw me close, and I marvel at their assemblage and at the twisting and your control. I do see that what you do in 2 dimensions is really not all that different than what you're doing in 3 dimensions. I guess I thought you were pulling things together and categorizing things
There's a certain part that I'm adding stuff and I'm thinking about the shape of the skirt or something like that. I used a whole set of really nice dominoes underneath a girl's skirt, and I'm like, then I covered it up with something, and I'm thinking, oh my God, do I take it all apart and reuse the dominoes and put something dumb underneath? And I thought, no, I just used them up.
That was one thing that happened, as Sarah said. Karin came in and she and Barbara stayed with us for, I don't know, 6 hours or so. And they left, and then we lit the show. And I'm telling you, it was like, oh, because of some of that detailing, that until the light bounced off of it, you really didn't know what was there. So it's sort of marvelous that there are little gifts hidden.
Do you know that if someone asked me once, what artist influenced me, or who do I like, or whatever, and you know, it's such a shame. I really didn't have anybody I liked. Really, I mean, I like a lot of art. You know, I like Andy Warhol stuff. I like the Basquiat's probably my favorite. The clay pieces by Rauschenberg, the big wall cardboard pieces. I love that kind of stuff. But there's a woman in Pennsylvania who does figures, and her name's Vanessa German. And when I saw her piece at the Greensburg, near 30 miles east of Pittsburgh, I saw her piece. She's African American. She had this girl with this ship on the head and a paintbrush up there and this jewelry on it, and just raw about the black experience and slavery. And I saw that and I thought, whoa. And when I saw that she used fabric and beads, and she used cell phones, and she used all kinds of stuff, in a way, it unlocked an interesting door for me, that when you think you're being influenced by someone, and you think, what's that key to unlock that kind of creativity? Well, basically, what can I steal from her, right? What can I steal from anybody? That's what you're doing. You look at Rauschenberg, what can I steal from him? Because I'll just regurgitate and translate into something else, right? But with Vanessa German, she gave me a freedom that I didn't have to think like an artist per se. I could think like a female. I could think like a woman making art. Because I thought, well, no one cares about female artists in art history anyway. I mean, thank you, Jansen, you know? But I thought, it's a weird permission, okay? So any woman, you still, like I'm old enough to still have those, like, be nice, be quiet, you know, be whatever, right? But so that still raises up like bad gas. But she was one of the, do I want to make, I mean, she makes these figures and they're really bold and incredible, and some I like, some I don't like. But once I saw it, I was able to go and do my own thing. I was able to go do it. It didn't matter. Maybe I'll use a cell phone if I want to. I got a whole box of them. Okay. But she's the only artist that I ever felt like that. I think Mauricio Lazansky, who taught at Iowa, where I went, a printmaker, he did these Nazi drawings, and that affected me. But when you go to Iowa, then you spend a year with him, everybody comes out drawing hands like this, like Lazansky, and it takes you like 5 years to get rid of arthritic hands. I don't know. It's just, it's weird. And so from that point on, I knew that I could be influenced, so I stopped. But I think just that permission was pretty great. I would hate to package up her things and send her stuff to a show, because they're very delicate. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on there.
You had an exhibition that's in the book, and it's a fabulous title, and it's something like Weld Weave Stamp.
Oh, it was like a Christian kind of thing, wired, nailed, and something, okay? And yeah.
My point is that words
Yes.
are such a part and parcel. And
God,
some
yeah.
of the artists don't go there, you know.
Titles have always been important to me. You walk the dog and you're thinking of titles. My best title was Screwed Blue. I like that one the best. Or Hurting Mad. Hurting Mad. When women are mad, they're really hurt. I realize that. They're really hurt. They're not just mad. You have hurt them somehow, right? And So the titles, yes. But at Rice, the thought of writing around a bunch of Rice people just seemed like, wow, we don't need to show them stupidity. I mean, you're already in the art department and you're not in engineering or any of the sciences. So I remember being on an airplane coming from Dallas early morning and someone, oh, miss, what do you do? Oh, I teach at Rice. Oh, and you could see all these hats. Like, it was the early morning flight and every man was in oil, right? Going back to Houston. And I didn't think about it. Their little heads come up, little hats. And he said, oh, so what do you teach? I said, oh, I'm a biochemist. And they were like, oh, really? Well, what kind of, and then I realized I am screwed. What kind of research do you do? Because I'm in oil. I said, my research would just bore you to death. But telling him that I was in the art department was like saying I was a cheerleader. That's what I felt, right? I was just not going to do it. And I realized, oh God, just tell the truth, Karen, from now on. But I think it was Linda telling me to write that I had to write a preface. But she didn't tell me what to write. I mean, I think she would have eventually, okay? She didn't tell me what to write or whatever. And what? She edits, but it's never the gist of what I'm writing. And she really I just am off on my own, right? And she may say, read a little too many words or something like that. I can't follow the theme. I can't follow the thread. But it opened up a new world for me because I realized, again, I put on all this stuff and my words I take away so that you get it. The girls are really clear. Thank you. That's it. No more. Nope, that's it.
I was like, what's your studio like? I mean, like, is it organized, cluttered?
Well, yes, yes, I had 2 pop-ups at the studio for 2 artists. One was Jack Massing in January. I don't know why I thought it would be a good thing to do. He was part of the art guys. And then in November, I had Edward McCartney, who did some really interesting stuff. And I had to move all my art furniture to the annex. We do live in a warehouse. It has 2 buildings and 6,000 square foot warehouse with an annex. And so I moved all the furniture in, and then Barbara had to organize it because I realized that moving stuff, I had, what do you do with 100 can openers? Like the bottle openers? I don't know why I thought that's something I need, okay? So, but they all needed to be, I needed to see my palette. When I'm making girls or whatever, I need to, what are my heads? Okay, I needed a drawer of arms. I needed a drawer of legs. And so Barbara did all that. So now it's very organized. So when it went back to the main studio, everything was organized. So when I get a bunch of junk, if someone gives it to me, I know a lot of hoarders. They call me and say, they're not willing to give me really good stuff, not yet. They're like, wow, maybe you can have these doorknobs, okay, or something, And so I go and get those. But
Karen, has your art ever hurt you?
Yeah, welding takes its toll sometimes. Grinding, I've ground off this kneecap bit. I've got some really good scars where that stock just falls down. Welding is a contact sport. It really is. I've got, just stuff on my, the hairdresser says, God, why is there this weird band of like wounds all here? Oh God, because the guy welding for me, I'm holding and I have a hat and it's all burning me here. So that's about it. Yes, that's about, but I don't mind it. I love welding. I like steel, so I don't like that it rusts, but that's every bane of every welder's existence, But someone just gave me, someone said they had a lot of gun parts, and I was so excited, okay? I really was. I took boxes with me thinking, okay, they had a gun shop. Please, I'm the person for all those gun barrels, okay? And but it actually had deep sea diving stuff. These knives in these brass containers that are like $1,600 each. I had 9 of them. And it's like, oh my God. I'm trying to figure out how do I cut a slit in. But then again, sharp knives, they're really sharp. But I did get one nice barrel, and I got a lot of bayonets. So I mean, I don't know. You know, so I mean, so I collect some stuff, and some stuff I don't need. You know, but you need a lot of stuff to choose from.
Have you had any of your students or people who have seen your exhibits come back to you and say, you know, we need to be changing some things, or that have worked towards changing some of our politics, or just the feeling of the cyclical happenings of women being murdered? I mean, here in Corpus Christi, we've had it over and over.
Right.
Violence against women is just endemic.
It is, and I had one guy walk up to me and say, I'm going to be better. And I thought that was really nice, I'm going to be better. Bob McLean at one of the openings, and there was all these people from the opera, and they're looking at all my damn girls, those big drawings, right? And the table and the book for that. And so Bob is like, you know, she really is happily married. And I thought, oh, God, you sound like a misogynist, Bob, but thank you for that. And I said, it's as simple as this. It really is. And I told Deborah this too, to make sure that if there's anybody in there saying, oh my God, this is like some girl or whatever. I love men. I truly wish I didn't. I mean, I really wish I liked women's bodies. I just don't, I'm sorry. I love men. I just love men. But I hate bad men. Hate bad men. So if you're a bad man, do not come near me. Do not come near me. Okay? There are a lot of, your tribe, the male tribe's got some problems. Okay, you've got to figure it out, right? But, you know, women are doing the best they can. I think at Rice, Alan Matisow was a historian, and then Stephen Kleinberg, sociologist, and there was this panel about the family, and it was like an ongoing thing, like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and I just saw Matisow's and Kleinberg's, and Alan Matisow just said, okay, all of you people out there, women are doing everything. They are at full capacity of what they can do. Men, you are not. And I thought, wow, Alan Matisow was saying this, you know. And I thought, wow, he needs to give me more money. I need to go, he's the dean. I need to go and get a better salary, because he's pro-woman. And Stephen Kleinberg was saying about the same thing. And I thought it was interesting. This was in the 90s. And I thought that was interesting. Of course, I think that they were both astute men, so they are. So.
Well, you're remarkable. Your work is remarkable, and we're so honored to have you here and your work here, and we're so grateful that you all came out. Happy to be living humans again. Thank you, Karin, for everything.
And thank you for listening.